This year we're growing some different varieties of tomatoes. The normal ones we grow, as we saw over there before, the trust tomatoes, and the variety was Moneymaker. This year we're growing a few different varieties. We're testing to see how they come up. Some black cherry tomatoes, 2 of them there. One there, one over there that have already got flowers on them that you can see. We've got another different one, lemon drop, a smallish yellow coloured tomato. We've also got a Beams yellow pear, another small yellowy colour. We're obviously moving away from all the red ones we grow. And then this guy here is a tigrella. And there's another one behind, they're much smaller plants. And the last one over here is a standard red cherry tomato. So we'll be keeping an eye on those this year to see how they go, trying them for taste and flavour. I had hoped to get some black Russian tomatoes, but we couldn't find any. We didn't have time to grow them from seed, but next year we will, once we discover what's tasty and what's not in the new varieties. And I'll definitely have some black Russians for next year. So we are growing a few different varieties this season, and we will definitely be growing the tasty ones again next year. We're getting closer to finishing the new back wall of the barn now. You can see the 50% shade cloth across the back there. Simply because we put 50% there because nothing grows in behind it, so that's not a problem. This area over here, it's got 10% cloth on it. It's actually fruit fly mesh in actual fact. It only knocks out 10% of light, so we're getting that extra sunlight early in the morning. This area over here is going to have the fruit fly mesh on it also down there, so that the plants can get additional sunlight a bit earlier in the morning. As I mentioned earlier, this year we're growing some different varieties of tomatoes. The normal ones we grow, as we saw over there before, the trust tomatoes, and the variety was Moneymaker. This year we've got some quite different ones in that we're testing to see how flavoursome they turn out to be. Some black cherry tomatoes, 2 of them there. One there, one over there that have already got flowers on them that you can see. A smallish yellow coloured tomato. And then this guy here is a tigrella. And there's another one behind, they're much smaller plants. And the last one over here is a standard red cherry tomato. So we'll be keeping an eye on those this year to see how they go, trying them for taste and flavour. These are our summer tomatoes. You can see they're all looking pretty good. They obviously appreciate 4 feeds a day, and they're stacking on some serious growth up on the top. Each plant is getting very strong in the top. They're liking the extra food they're getting and reacting accordingly. Coming on very strongly, they're looking very good. These plants were potted on into the Dutch buckets on the 9th of the month, and it's the 30th today. So it's only about 3 weeks that they've been in here. They're doing very, very well. You can see the flower buds on this plant here. There we go, you can see them there, the flower buds. And even this little guy down here's got flower buds on it. So they're all looking pretty good in actual fact. I expect in a couple of weeks we'll have some fruit set, which will be great. They're being fed at the moment. You can see the nutrient solution being pumped into them. And all looking very healthy. Today's the 9th of October. It's exactly 1 month since I planted the first of these tomatoes into the Dutch buckets. And you can see how much they have grown. They've doubled in size since they went into the system. Many of them have now got flowers on them, and the ones that haven't, They're getting pretty close to it. There's some flowers there. Big bunch of them there waiting to open. We'll hand pollinate these once the flowers open, but they're looking substantially good. There's some that have started to open there. I'll spin round here. There's another lot there, looking very good. Another one opened. So the flowers are starting to open, which is a good sign. More buds down there. I'll go and have a look at this is a black cherry tomato. They're the first flowers on it, opening up. Won't be long before we have some pollinated flowers on this lot. The other ones are growing alright too. A little bit more slowly, but they're looking alright. They're currently on 5 feeds a day, about half an hour at a time. The nutrient just runs back through these pipes down here into the reservoir, which is outside. We saw in the last video, that's out there. Well, that's 4 weeks worth of growth in the system, and it's looking pretty good. You can see a lot of the tomato plants are now coming into flower. They have grown substantially. They're 5 weeks now since they were planted out into the Dutch buckets, and you can see they're all looking pretty tall. Nutrients pumping in at the moment, and you can see how tall the plants are. More flowers down here starting to open, and they're looking very healthy actually. More flowers over there. Well, today's 7 weeks since the tomato plants have been put into the Dutch buckets. You can see how much they've grown. Massive numbers of flowers around the place, waiting for some bees to come in to pollinate them, and then I'll start hand pollinating to make sure we get a really good crop this year. Plenty of flowers around. 36.5 today, so it's excellent growing temperature for these guys. They're currently getting 5 feeds a day because they're using up a lot of moisture and evaporation, so we're keeping the feed up to them. You can see how much they've grown since they came down here from upstairs. The seedlings are now growing really, really well. I would think we'll probably see our first actual tomato fruit before long on some of these flowers. There's so many flowers on the plants in the system at the moment. That plant's grown that amount in the last 3 days. And I need to start tying some of these plants up again. I think we're going to have a really good year this year on our tomato crop. Looks like a substantially good year this year, I would think. So we'll wait and see. A little bit more media over the top. Press some down into line, and I'll put another row along here.